Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Mark. As with most successful bands, their best works are not necessarily their biggest hits. This is an epic, but also of note, No Quarter, 10 Years Gone, and Rain's song deserve special attention. So I wonder if we're going to get to those eventually. But right here, we're going to have Achilles Last Stand from Led Zeppelin. Let's dive into this. We have 10 minutes ahead of us with music. Let's see what the old Led Zeppelin's bringing to the table today. Yeah, a lot of fun syncopation against that core 4/4 beats. Dun 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 dun. We have that gallop underneath everything, really driving this entire track forward. Yeah, cool little riff to put on top of the same rhythmic pattern of the beginning. The dotted quarter idea, slow things down for a moment. Getting a lot of mileage out of this. So, I mean, we're 3 minutes in and the foundation hasn't really changed at all. There's almost a stagnation to this track. That rising bass idea underneath this emotive guitar solo. Oh, interesting. It sounded like that note was not supposed to be muted. The flow got disrupted a bit. The layers, oh, so good. Sort of moving into almost a psychedelic realm, and then the fog just fades out, and we're back to this verse. I mean, the pretty standard part of the track here. Some interesting effects. There's something more soothing about these guitar lines. Everything in this song is so driving, and this one, I just kind of want to go with the flow. Like, heavy, strong physicality. Lots of microtonality and slurring to that vocal line. Lots of very subtle pitch changes. Bass is still killing it down there. Such a sharp transition going from this to... Oh, not yet. Usually they only do that 4 times. Yeah, so there's a small tempo shift, but also the entire rhythmic and atmospheric idea is so different. Interesting production on that. Starting over here, pushing more towards the center while becoming more ethereal, less focused. That's actually a riff from much earlier in the track, but in a totally different guitar tone. Yeah, I think that's going to be a song that could grow on me. There's a lot of really cool things in it, but I think for every 2 steps forward it takes 1 step back. So it never loses ground. It just never quite, it doesn't hit that area of like perfection for me where every single decision feels right. I have a couple of issues with it overall as far as my enjoyment of it, but I think from a more critical lens, it does a lot of things really well. And the first thing I want to kick off is sort of a double-edged sword. It is partially why I find this track not as enjoyable casually as I would like, but it's also what gives this song so much of its identity and what makes its writing so strong. We have theme and variation on this track in a broad sense. Usually theme and variation is it's a classical description of creating a single motif or ostinato, a core identity for the lead melody, and then changing it and adapting it over time, usually and sometimes frequently to a point where it's almost indiscernible how it relates back to the original form unless you're innately aware of music theory. There's a lot of classical music where even I will listen to it and think, yeah, dude, there's no way you got to, we're still on that same core idea anymore. It's so far divorced from that original realm. And, you can see how it got there, but audibly, it's not anywhere near as close as how we typically use variations on core ideas in modern music, which tends to keep the audible key elements of it. For instance, in this track, almost every riff you can hear how it's evolving and adapting over the course of this song. When we hear a pattern come in, when we hear the galloping of the bass, we know what section we're in, but the guitar parts that are going to be played on top of it, some of the drum patterns, maybe even some of the bass lines themselves, they're going to be different. They're different because the second time we came to this section, it was different from the first. And when we got to the third time into this section, it was different than the other two. There is constant evolution on here. The reason I say it's not traditional theme and variation is because it's not usually just the core riff or melodic idea. It's sort of the entire section being modified. As I mentioned, it could be a new drum pattern, it could be a new bass line, it could be an extension of a guitar riff. It could be a guitar riff split in two and harmonized rather than having the guitar in one place. It could be the vocals doing something different on top of all of it. As far as my ears can hear, there's really only 3 unique sections to this track. But the song stays fresh by modifying what we do in them. Every time we come back to an idea, we're going to hear a new concept around it. The bones are going to be the same, but what's going to be built out of that, it's going to be a little different every time. This is why I called it double-edged sword. I think for 10 minutes, you gotta have some really big swings, some very big variations to keep 3 short ideas interesting. I did find that by the 5th and 6th time that we hit the galloping bass section or the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, the sort of marching snare concept, they just weren't hitting as much anymore. The variations were neat, but not transformative. And the song ends up, to me, feeling incredibly repetitive around the 7 or 8 minute mark. And the last few minutes of the track were definitely a portion where I thought, I've kind of had my fill with this. I'm cool if they just wrap it up here. I know they're not going to. They have multiple minutes ahead of us, but I'd certainly had my fill. I was ready for it to be over. But I also give them props for putting variety in there at all. I mean, even around this time, which was the 70s, 76 is when this came out. We had Americana just doing the old A B A B A B thing. No variation to the music at all because the story of the lyrics is more important. So, this is definitely more varied, more evolving than even contemporary music at the time. But it's still just not enough for me. So I want to give them credit for doing what they did. And I greatly appreciate having any sort of evolution over complete stagnancy of just playing, A, B, A, B, A, B, C, A, B, C, and just sticking with this very rigid form. This is so much better than that. But I do wish I had taken just one extra step forward and looked at more transformative evolution. I think the most transformative idea they had in this was splitting the guitars. And that was interesting because we didn't just add harmony where there previously was just melody, but we also changed up the texture, the feeling of the section. It transformed it into something else. Previously, it was just a guitar melody alongside everything else. It was a nice addition to go along with the rhythm guitar and the bass and the drums and the vocals to have an extra melody here, doing a little bit of counterpoint against the vocals. This transformed that though, because now we had two, they're surrounding us, it's creating harmony, which is adding emotional value to the track, but it also feels more than. It creates, the word I was going to say, what messed up my flow here because I second guessed myself, is chaos. I don't think that is the right word. It's not necessarily just more energy either. But as soon as the guitars came in, it almost felt like too much as far as the mix goes. It started to feel a bit claustrophobic. The composition made sense. The production wasn't cluttered, but this felt like one too many voices present at one time. It began to spark what I would call the escalation of this track. As sounds would get louder, tempos would increase a bit, layers would increase, and we would eventually hit an emotive peak with one of the final guitar solos. It's this moment that it doesn't just transform this specific section, something that we've heard several times before but feels different now, but it also sparks a change in the direction for the song. This is what I say when I want transformative change rather than just an extra layer or an extra harmony or something. This altered the way the track felt and changed the directionality for it. And I really appreciate that. I think this was a good point to do it. It was a bit early on, I'd say maybe like 4 minutes in, so a little before the halfway point, but it certainly gave us enough time with the core ideas to sort of get familiar with them and understand what they did and how they worked within the larger scale of the song before we altered it and began to change things more sharply. So, double-edged sword with that one. Like I said, I wish there was a little more to it, but I'm glad they did it. Great idea there. So let's see, something else. I just had it in my mind too. Oh yeah, transitions on this. I wish they were smoother. Maybe the lyrics will explain why they're not, but also given the time and rock and metal sort of penchant towards sharper transitions in general over time, it all must have come from somewhere. I mean, this is an issue I've levied towards other bands, progressive bands from the 60s and 70s too. Transitions just not always as smooth as I would want. And I'm okay with a harsh transition here and there as a contrast, but this one, every transition feels awkward and jarring. The tempo shifts mixed with rhythmic shifts, mixed with harmonic shifts. It just feels like a song interrupting what we were doing. And then we'll stick with this for a while, and then another song will interrupt that. And it just never really feels like a cohesive whole. Instead, it feels like three distinct ideas that just happen to continue to cut each other off in conversation. There is one really solid transition in here though, and I absolutely loved it. We were coming out of the first guitar solo, I believe it was, and as I had mentioned, it kind of went into like a semi-psychedelic direction for a brief moment, and then we had this nice little fade out, a shimmering away of it, and it was like the fog was being removed, was fading away as the next section came in, the verse came back in. And I thought that worked really well musically. If you listen to the bass, you listen to the drums, the rhythm guitar, yeah, another really jagged transition. But because of the lead solo on top of this, because of its fade out, because of its extension across bars, it smooths it out a lot and creates narrative component to it. I thought that was phenomenal. And I kind of wish they had done that more often, because I think every other time was this bar, we're doing this idea, the very next bar we're going to be doing a new idea, and there's just no crossover, no lingering of old ideas, no foreshadowing, there's just no connectivity between them. And instead of instead of like puzzle pieces which are shaped to neatly fit into each other, these are just two squares, and they do work. They fit right next to each other well, but they're not interlocked. They just happen to have smooth edges that can line up very well. And so it's not bad, it's just jagged, which subjectively is not my favorite type of transition. The melodies, though, I think this is what gets me through most of this. It has solid groove, solid direction, a momentum. This song just keeps going. The rhythm section, the bass and the drums do a fantastic job of that. But the melodies are what kept me around. I loved the vocals slowly and altering their melodic style. Each verse has a little bit of a different melodic flair to it. None of them are completely identical. The guitar solos are gorgeous. A little bit of blues thrown in there, a little bit of the good rock sound. I'd even say a very little bit of like a Spanish influence in the second solo. I don't know, it was just a dash though. Nothing that I would say was a strong component of it. I think rock and blues are still the two larger influences here, but it was kind of nice to see it branch out a little bit and be a distinct moment against the other guitar solos. But they're just incredibly emotive and tasteful, lots of bends and longer held out notes alongside moving ideas, and it never really feels like it's chopped up into blocks. It feels like one long sentence rather than a bunch of predictable groupings of ideas. Between the two of these, I feel like this is really what drives the song, and it's what allows the song to not feel quite as long as it is and not quite as repetitive as it is, because the music is, it's locked into those three core ideas. But the melodies, they're evolving, they're changing, and every time a new one came up, I felt like I was rediscovering a part of this track that had kind of always been there, but hidden beneath the surface, an emotion or a feeling that they just dug up for that moment and explored. I really enjoyed that. There's also the vocalizations that are going on in a lot of these places, almost as if the vocalist wanted to be part of the instrumental sections. Lots of oohs and ahs and ohs. Sometimes I thought they were very cool. It's nice texture layering in places where they sing the exact same thing the guitars are playing. It doesn't always work for me. I thought it was a little overblown towards the end, but I did like the harmonized vocals and the counterpoint vocals in these moments where we had two vocal lines just doing oohs and ahs. I don't think they were singing specific words, doing their own things though. One was like holding a note out and the other one had some movement, and then they would move at the same time, but this one would carry on while the first one still held the note out. I'm a sucker for counterpoint. I'm a sucker for multiple vocal lines. And yeah, those moments really worked. And I kind of wish we had seen more of them earlier on too, but I suppose it works here as a nice way to wrap the track up and have this big moment, this cap towards the end of the track to reach this peak. Very cool ideas. Is there anything else here? I don't think so. I think I touched on everything. The bass is fantastic, though. I love that. The drums are what I would expect for 76 rock. I wish they were a little bit more expansive in what they're doing. A lot of the times they just lock into a groove, but it's also of the time and pretty typical, even moving forward. I mean, modern rock still has a drummer that locks into a specific groove rather than is exploratory in their drum work. So that's just me wanting more complex music as usual. I love drum complexity. It's just a bit rare in a lot of music. Nothing to dig specifically at Led Zeppelin on there. Yeah, let me hit some lyrics on this and see what's going on there. The structure to this track is interesting, but also it puts a bit of a pattern to it that I think I would notice on a second listen that might make it seem a little more directional than I think my first time listen had for it. We have two verses and then an instrumental, two verses and then a guitar solo, which is a type of instrumental, a verse and a chorus, which is two more stanzas, although one they describe as chorus because it is a refrain that will be coming back later, a bridge, which was an instrumental, and then the outro. So we have two vocal stanzas and a break, two vocal stanzas and a break, two vocal stanzas and a break, and then the outro. It is, like I mentioned, more defined and rigid than I picked up on from a first time listen, particularly listening to the instrumental parts though. Now what this song is about though, I'm gonna need some help on that. The first three verses, it feels like it's more world building than storytelling because all three of them combined pretty much tell me one thing. Our narrator and a second person got onto a boat to sail. That's really it. Half of the lines, not to say much more than that. It was an April morning when they told us we should go. And as I turned to you, you smiled at me. How could we say no? Verse 2, sending off a glancing kiss to those who claim they know, to sail away to sandy lands and other days, to touch the dream, hides inside and never seen. Verse 3, into the sun, the south, the north, at last the birds have flown, oh, to ride the wind, to tread the air above the din. We've spent a lot of time, and at this point, I think over 3 minutes, to say we got on a boat in April and we had a blast. It's kind of wild. Now, verse 4 begins to explain what they were looking for, where they were venturing to. It says to seek the man whose pointing hand the giant step unfolds, to guide us from the curving path that turns our feet to stone. If one bell should ring in celebration for a king, so fast the heart should beat as proud the head with heavy feet. And I don't know what this is referring to. To me, at least, this is rather cryptic. I feel like there's one major metaphor or analogy that might unlock all of this, but as it stands, as far as I can tell, they're looking for someone who is metaphorically large. Maybe they're important and they're a guider or a mentor of types. But that's it. Like, there's nothing more specific to that, at least for me. Verse 5 seems to push way into the future then. It says, well, actually, no, maybe not way into the future. This might still be while on the boat, but he's reminiscing about his life back in the town. That might be what's going on here. It says, days went by when you and I bathed in eternal summer's glow. As far away and distant our mutual child did grow. I wonder if he's just pining for the days of being with his family again. That's it though. That's all the verses. The chorus just says, wandering what place to rest the search, the mighty arms of Atlas hold the heavens from the earth. I know the way. That's the entirety of the song because the last 3 minutes is just oohs and ahs. I don't know. Like I get the surface level read on this. They're on a boat in search of someone. Maybe they are in search of Atlas who, carries the earth's weight on his shoulders. That's got to be a metaphor though, right? So we're looking for the meaning of life, what holds our planet in place. We're looking for information. None of that really lines up with the surface level read of verse 4, where they seem to be looking for a mentor or a scholar of some type. So I don't know. I think I'm a bit lost on that. I'd like to know what the specifics are. I'm like a 70% understanding. It's just the last little bit that really eludes me. Now, of course, this is a track about a journey. Having the song be as long as it is, and I think as repetitive as it is, makes a lot of sense, especially for a seafaring journey where a lot of the time you're just on a boat and you see the sky and the water and that's it. So the music having slight variation but not deep transformative changes makes a lot of sense from that perspective. And I wonder if that's what they were going for. However, the galloping feeling throughout this doesn't really give a watery vibe. So maybe I'm reading too much into the music, which, that's what I do. I read too much into things. These are my thoughts, though, on Led Zeppelin's Achilles Last Stand. Achilles Last Stand. What does this even have to do with Achilles? I don't know, dude. I forgot that was the title, and now I'm so lost on it. Let me know. If you guys have any thoughts, perspectives, opinions on this, if you have your own take on how all of this works, let me know. Put it in the comments section how all of this connects and what it means to you. I'm rather perplexed. Above the comment section in the description box is a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.